Well, one of the reasons why we called oyster catchers is because of the great reputation that you have in the industry about being able to help people find the right kind of agency for the type of work that we wanted to do. So that was the first reason why we decided to go with oyster catchers. The second thing was is that we also had a real need to get a third party perspective on our needs. So not just us looking at a bunch of different agencies, but for somebody else to actually do all that work for us, so that by the time we got to, and it shortened down the time it made for us for a decision making process, but by the time it got to us, we had a very short list to be able to start taking a look at. Well, I think one of the things about oyster catchers process is the fact that it gives you a system to go through. I mean, first of all, we had a great account person. Angus was fantastic in being able to take us through the entire process. He understood our needs, took our brief, took what we needed to do, and then said, okay, fine, let me start taking a look around. And so there was done in a very systematic approach. Then there was the hand-holding that went through the entire process, which I thought was great, because what it did is took myself and my team through the entire process of looking at different agencies. I think we started off with 8, ended up with 4, and then heard those pitches. Well, we also hired oyster catchers to help us out in doing an evaluation of what we had done in the past. And one of the things that we recognize is that you had a wide group of people that you potentially might be able to call on to take a look at how campaigns should be evaluated, and then not how they were going to be evaluated, but the end results and what that actually meant. We were lucky enough to be able to tap into 2 of your contacts that came into our operation and then started taking a look backwards at all the work that we had done, figure out whether or not we had done what we were supposed to do, delivered on what we were supposed to deliver, and eventually come up with what we now think of are really green shoots of behavior change within consumers and the consuming of alcohol. Well, what it has done, it's given us literally a baseline for all the work that we're going to do. So it gave us not only working with our logic models, but also allowed us to take a look at how we were going to be able to go forward with the evaluations that we were going to be doing, how we should set up our campaigns to be evaluated properly. All of that is now literally inside our organization. It's part of it. It's part of our DNA. So now we take a look at everything. Before we start, we do an evaluation, and then after we get finished, we do a post-evaluation. We know how much behavior change has happened in that period of time, and then we're able to then go forward in planning our campaigns. I think one of the biggest things about looking at how the agencies and the clients work together is whether or not the agency comes up with the right people, the right talent, the right type of a feel and fit for the type of organization. We're a very small organization. We're not large. And because we're a small organization, what we need, from my perspective, is a bit of hand-holding to get us through that starting off phase. And what we were looking for is an agency that was actually going to work with us in a very collaborative way and working with us to help develop what we were going to do as we went down the road. The other thing that we're really interested in is finding an agency who had experience in behavior change. This is really, really critical for us because a lot of people do advertising or they might do communications. What we were looking at was for somebody who had potentially that type of background, that experience, that looked directly at behavior change, taking not just the people's looking at consumer awareness or attitudes, but getting them to switch from one thing to another. More interestingly, we needed to find somebody who really understood doing it digitally, because we're doing something that no one else that I think is doing it anywhere, any place in the world, which is taking people's behavior and trying to change it basically only using digital. And that's social media, websites, and those types of things. And so we're lucky enough to be able to find an agency to do that, and that's Ogilvy one. The real challenge for Drinkaware as we start going forward is to make sure that what we have started off with and those green shoots that I mentioned just a few minutes ago actually take off and go and start becoming something really more important and have more impact in the marketplace. We are seeing already some people starting to say, geez, if it's worked so well doing this, do you think if you were just to make it a little bit larger, you have more reach, more frequency, using advertising terms to talk about that, but really getting into the marketplace a little bit deeper, we potentially can have even more impact. Right now, we're not hitting the size and the numbers that we need to hit simply because of the size of our budgets. Would I recommend oyster catchers to other people? The answer is absolutely. There are a couple of things, the reasons why we would probably want to do that. Number one, oyster catchers is extremely professional. They're very professional in terms of taking a brief from us, but also in how they worked with agencies. I think that was number one. They have a breadth of understanding in the marketplace, which we didn't see for virtually anybody else. And that was, do they know the agencies and what those agencies can offer to somebody like Drinkaware? That was very important. I think the third thing is that the talent that you had on board that was able to help us out, and the kind of a relationship that was built up over a very short period of time. The last item, I think, is trust. I mean, you trust somebody to actually help you to get your job done faster and easier. And as the head of a small organization, I needed that help, and Oyster Catchers gave that to us.